Hey kids, welcome to Glen's Room Emporium. We are down here doing yet another project. Always projects going on. We are working on a Rogers bass drum. This is part of the kit I bought from the original Sioux band, very popular band from the late 50s to I think it's 1965, called the Fireflies. There's pictures of the Fireflies with this drum set, and I bought it off a keyboard player. I didn't know it was a Firefly kit at the time until I was told that afterwards, and then did the research, and sure enough, it is the authentic kit they used more in the early 60s, because the band apparently gear earlier got in a fire at one of the places they were playing, and all their gear was lost or partially lost. This does have some weird burn marks on it underneath. That I've not researched yet, but we'll find out if it was the bass drum in the fire. But there is burns on it underneath. This is a Spotlight series drum kit. That came with the tom, the bass drum, and the floor tom is a Holiday series Rogers. The Spotlight series did not have a floor tom. It did come with a snare and tom and bass drum. The snare drum is actually a Ludwig Superphonic, and it's earlier too. The original snare disappeared, but it would have been not as good as some of the upper line ones. It also mounted to the bass drum on a special mount. So it had a tom mount and a snare mount. So no snare stand was needed with this kit. Pretty interesting kit. I don't have any of that. So the kit is, it was played, abused, and altered, so it is by no means an original kit. Also, the lugs, the bread and butter lugs, I've taken those off because they were prone to breaking, and I wanted to keep the originals safe and without issue. So if I did sell this kit, you get the original bread and butter bass drum lugs. So I've got like a Slingerland type on there, and they work great. So what we're doing is there's some extra holes in this bass drum for whatever reason. I'm not sure what the previous owner was doing or thinking. Who knows? Everybody, is always altering their drums. I've had so many kits come through this small workshop of mine that were hacked to death. Some were just slightly customized. They all bring the value down. So what we're doing is we're filling the holes with dowels, and we buy a bunch of dowels here from the wood shop, different sizes, right here, and you just cut pieces off in little chunks, and you make your little, you try and get the thickness of the wood as close as possible, and shave them down to fit holes like this. So I don't want to recover this drum set because the finish is still beautiful and shiny, except for the burn marks underneath. But the burn marks are only about this big. I'm not going to flip it over because all my T-rods are in there and I don't want them banging around. This kit did come with an original cymbal holder right here. For whatever reason, it disappeared, and so did the original cymbal holder. I have since found an original Slinger or Rogers cymbal holder. The original holes are here. These are aftermarket, so this hole and this hole have to be plugged, and thus we've started to cut our dowels, and we will fill those. As you can see, this was a hole for The previous drummer's uses, there's no other hole, so I don't know what it is. It's not an air hole because the Rogers, the air holes are on the side lower. So no idea what that was. We have your cymbal holder, or the cymbal rod, cymbal stand. This is for originally the snare. There's another one that goes here for the tom. The snare used to come out like this, right here with an L arm, and hold the snare. It went right inside the side of the snare, and you could raise it and lower it to your liking, and then the tom would go here. This hole's got a bit of damage to it, so we're going to fix that. Nothing major, but this dowel is already in place, and you wonder, well, you can't just leave it like that. And no, we're not going to do that. I write to a lot of drum companies and I ask them for samples. So they send little squares of their finishes. So we've got little pieces of this type of wrap color, and we are just going to place it and glue it in. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't have the camera at the right angle. Yeah, so we're going to glue this in place. And you're going to see just a hair of a seam around it. But I don't want to redo the whole kit. I could do that, but I like this finish. This is the original finish. I can live with these small blemishes. I mean, you expect that from a kit from the 50s to have some war wounds. I mean, obviously you don't expect it to have holes, but this one I had to fill in. So what we do, I put the dowel in there, and if I like to go countersink it just a bit, and some of these new finishes aren't as thick. So what I do is I just take another piece as a spacer. So that'll be the spacer underneath. And put that on top, glue all of them together. It works fine. I've been doing it for years like that. I have different thicknesses, and if something is got to be thinner, you can take these, and they're like a paperback here, and you can actually sand these down. So just think of them as the one that you're going to glue underneath the main good one. Use these as shims, and you can shave them thinner and thinner until you get a nice level fit. So rather than rewrap the whole drum, you're going to lose the value anyways. You risk wrecking taking some of the badges off. So you have to weigh the odds on the damage part. Putting a little bit of a filler in here that matches for the cosmetic factor and trying to keep it level is what I do for anything vintage. I'd like to keep the original vintage finish, but if it's totally cooked, not much you can do. I did repaint the bass drum hoops, and the other one is hiding down there. It's ready to go on. I prefer gloss black instead of the semi-black. But bass drum hoops throughout the years have been painted either by brush or by spray can or by spray gun for years by the owners. If, you know, once they get banged up, it's like you don't go and buy new hoops, you sand them down and repaint them. So this kit is used. It played lots and lots and lots of shows with the Fireflies. They were one of the top bands and worked steady, doing all that great 50s and 60s music. And so the kit does have some wounds. Somebody painted the inside, but the bearing edges and everything are all intact. It's still solid. The toms are fine inside. They're not painted. It was like he ran this in the late 60s without a front head. But when I got the kit, I got everything. Front and back heads, and I didn't get the Firefly logo, but I know where it is. I would love to get that Firefly logo from the 50s and 60s, and stick it on this kit, but the owner's not ready to part with it. But I told him if he ever did, name your price, because it's nostalgic, and I love the nostalgic factor of this being a 50s and 60s kit that was actually used to play in the bars every weekend. So that's the scoop. That's what I do for fixing those holes in the bass drum. They're glued in there. I don't use wood glue. I use like Gorilla Glue, more of the gel. I find some of the wood glue expands too much on the dowel, and sometimes the glue squirts up too much, and trying to sand that down without hurting the finish is tricky. So I prefer to use crazy glue, or definitely Gorilla Glue in the gel form. Okay, thanks for watching.